welcome to the Silverbird Selection. It's a very warm August day today, which means it's the perfect weather to be playing video games indoor in front of an old computer. Maybe not really, but I'm doing it anyway. This time around I'm looking at a shoot 'em up voted for by you guys. I gave you the choice of a horizontal or vertically scrolling game, and you went almost unanimously for the horizontally scrolling game, Scorpius. This is a Silverbird release from 1988. Seems to be very rare. Can't find a copy on eBay in either the completed or current listings, and that means there's been nothing on eBay for 3 months by my reckoning, so quite a hard game to get hold of. My copy I got many moons ago, probably over a decade ago, for £3.99, so even then it seemed to be quite desirable. So I'm glad to have got it for that price and got a copy at all. Let's get on with the review, starting with, as always, looking at the packaging. Okay, let's take a look at the front cover then, and as you can see it's a Silverbird pink and black affair, Scorpius logo at the top there, and an image of two people who look like they're on kind of, I don't know, jet skis but underwater with some tentacles, which I've got to be honest doesn't really give the full idea of the game away by the front cover image. It's a bit bland really. The spine also got that Scorpius logo on, which is pretty nicely done. It's sort of a green and blue metallic sort of thing. And then the back cover has got the 4 screenshots as always, which you can quite clearly see it's some kind of side scrolling shoot 'em up there. And the information about the game simply says aquatic peril with a sting in its tail. Inside we can see it's a first wave of the Silverbird packaging because it hasn't got any of the screenshots of other games inside. It's just got the list there on the boring white background. So moving inside, we've got the credits there, Scorpius copyright Daisysoft, with all the credits for programming, sound, and also a special thanks to Debbie Foles, whoever that is. Then you've got an intro to the game. An off-world resource colony has been registering an abnormal buildup of toxic gas over a vast area of the water planet LRV-1168. This sounds suspiciously a little bit like the planet in the first Alien film. The gas seems to be bubbling through vast undersea tunnels, and your crack team of aquanauts have been drafted in to investigate. Local tales tell of a gargantuan creature who has the power to control all manner of aquatic beasts. So mount your aqua gliders and get ready to fight, and pray you don't meet Scorpius. Then you've got the loading instructions, and then the gameplay controls. Games for 1 or 2 players, it says there. A few other bits of information that don't really apply because I'm only going to be playing a 1-player game. And then finally there's a list of the power-ups. During the game, icon letters will appear depending on how well you're doing. Each player has his own icons, and you've got all these different power-ups. So you've got speed up, pulse lasers, rapid fire, double, multiple, impact, flank, accelerate with an X, beam, energy shield, and nitro shield. So lots of different power-ups to collect. Let's see how we do in the game when it loads to collect those. And that's the instructions. Here we have the loading screen for the game. No music, but quite a nice image. The Scorpius logo. You can see the 2 guys on their aqua vehicles, whatever they're called, and a lot of bubbles and stuff. No aliens on the screen again, which seems a bit strange when you're trying to advertise that it's a shoot 'em up type game. And as you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, that loading screen was by Steve Hall. So here's the title screen. As you can see, it says Scorpius, produced by Daisysoft. Big list of names there, a couple of them to pick out. It does move on to the high score table. It kind of rotates between these 2 screens. Delvin Sorrell was the programmer. We've seen that name before. Also the name Daisysoft. He was responsible for programming Street Warriors, which I reviewed a few weeks ago. There's also a couple of names on there that would go on to become quite big names in the Commodore 64 game scene. That's John and Steve Rowlands. This was their first work, I believe, on the Commodore 64, but they went on to create games like Creatures and Mayhem in Monsterland. So this was a sort of their first thing that they did, as far as I'm aware. So the title screen is presentable but pretty boring. There's no music on the title screen. There's just the 2 screens you see there with the Scorpius logo, and that's about it. So let's get on with the game. So here we go. As expected, it's a horizontally scrolling shooter, and I'm getting very serious R-Type level 2 vibes from this. The graphics are very similar to level 2 of R-Type. At the moment the enemy formations are more like a game like Gradius or Salamander. We will see some other enemy formations that are quite familiar as we go along. So you can already see I've picked up a couple of power-ups, so you've got to pick up S is speed, and you definitely need to speed up because you're really slow to start with, and then P is adds an extra bullet to your shooting. So to begin with you only have, oh dear, that's not a good start. To begin with you only have one shot firing at a time, so collecting more of these things will give you more shots. You can see I'm firing 3 or 4 now. Once you've collected 4 of those, you're able to collect the other power-ups, which include rapid fire and all kinds of other things. Let's see if I'm at that point now. I am indeed. So we've moved on to some different kinds of enemies. We've now got kind of green snail things, and there's also kind of wiggly water maggots, I'll call them, or water worms at the top and bottom of the screen, but I just skimmed straight past them. Here's some more of them now. These are probably the most difficult things to shoot in the game because they're quite narrow, so your bullets do go past them. Okay, so I've now got a downward fire, that was the D. So yeah, it's pretty typical horizontally scrolling shooter type thing. You're on some kind of water ski jet thing, as already described. These blue things, they remind me of some of the enemies from Phase 2 of R-Type as well. You don't see them very often, to be honest. Okay, so I've now got an M, which is multiple fire, which basically means I can shoot up as well as down. And then I've got I, which is improved shot power, I think, if I remember rightly. So there's plenty of power-ups given, probably too many really, because it makes the game reasonably easy, although I did lose that life early on, but that's just because I was getting to grips with the controls again. Okay, so now I've got F, which gives you now more like a triple wave fire rather than the up and down they're going forward. So basically what you've got to do is make your way to the end of the level, kill the end of level boss, and yet move on to the next level. You probably could have guessed that without me telling you. So let's just get the B, which is the beam weapon. So the beam, you can see the beam fire it there, you can see quite a big beam. It's kind of a 3-phase thing, and instead of it charging up when you hold the fire button down like in R-Type, it charges up when you don't hold it down. So there you go, there is the beam. So you can see the beam sort of indicator in the middle of the score readout at the top there. So graphics wise it's quite nice. As I said, I got very heavily got that R-Type vibe from it, but they are quite nicely drawn. The graphics were done by the Rollins guys, Steve and/or John, who went on to do things like Creatures, as I mentioned. Again, I'm getting R-Type level 2 vibes from these enemies here. You might remember the ones that come out of the walls at the top and bottom, very similar to those. Let's get an E. That's now giving me some kind of protection around my ship. Here's where it gets a little bit more tricky, because you start to get a few enemies coming from behind trying to get you sneakily, although I think now I've got this protection that won't be too much of a problem. We shall see. So yeah, as for the sound, which was also done by one or both of the Rowan brothers, not so great, I don't think. The background music is quite boring. There you go, I think I'm fully powered up now with the N. That gives you this rotating shield, which I think protects you against most things, but I'll still try not to crash into stuff. So yeah, the music's very boring. It's just like a repeating sort of bass line, and the sounds for the sound effects are alright, but it's a pretty weedy sounding bullet sound. So yeah, it's alright, but it's pretty generic sort of space shooter sounds. There's nothing spectacular going on. There's not really any explosion sounds when you shoot stuff either. Oh, I've lost my life there. That's annoying, because I thought I was pretty much indestructible. So now, again, I'm getting some more R-Type level 2 vibes here from these things. Remember the end of level boss for R-Type was a kind of tentacly thing, and this is very reminiscent of that, although the enemy movement patterns are pretty boring and quite easy to predict for the most part. As I said, the only ones that are really difficult to avoid or shoot are the little worm things, which that was what I lost a life with. There's a random shot just went forward there for some reason. I don't know why that was. So you'll probably have already noticed that none of the enemies shoot back at you really, so that's a bit of an oversight, and that makes it quite straightforward, and it's just about avoiding stuff rather than actually killing a load of stuff, you can just avoid stuff. There's also quite a strange scoring process in that your score just accumulates as it goes along. You don't actually have to shoot anything to get any points. I mean, you get more points if you do shoot stuff, but you don't have to. So that's a bit strange as well for a shoot 'em up, when you think the main aim of the game would be to shoot stuff. Actually, you don't get the points, or you don't need to get the points from shooting stuff. So yeah, a bit strange there, but there you go. So I'm heading to the end of level boss here, and got to say, this is one of the most pathetic end of level bosses I've ever seen. Oh dear, that wasn't very good. I thought I'd skip that. So basically, it's a snail shell shooting stuff at you, and you just have to shoot it a lot of times. It's very difficult to shoot, but it's also very easy to dodge the things that it's shooting at you. No idea how many times you have to shoot this thing, but you could just sit here forever if you wanted to. There's no time limit, there's nothing going to kill you. You could just sit here forever and basically just die of boredom. But obviously I will try and destroy the enemy. It's just a case of dodging these things and hoping the odd shot gets through. So yeah, it takes a while. But notice the music's gone off as well, so that makes it even more dull. No end of level boss music. There we go, finally got it. So everything blows up, and then you get this message spelled out one letter at a time telling you you've completed the level. You can't skip that, so you've just got to sit and wait for it to go through. Prepare to enter the next level. And level 2, well, the music's better, I'll say that much for it. Quite like the music on level 2, although it is very repetitive again. Backgrounds are pretty similar. The attack patterns of these enemies are a little bit more inventive. Quite reminiscent of a Gradius or Salamander type attack pattern. Oh, something shot me back there, I didn't know that actually happened. So if a few things do shoot you, then oh, there goes another life. That's not a good start to this second level. I've lost 2 lives already. This one's definitely giving me more Salamander vibes with the design of the scenery, and also if I get far enough you'll see some enemies that are quite reminiscent of the first level of Salamander as well. So when you're well powered up, and assuming you don't accidentally get hit by something, it's pretty straightforward, the game. There's not a lot of challenge to it. There is a bit of bad collision detection here and there, so you will sometimes crash into the scenery when you're not expecting. I mean, it's giving you 2 power-ups at a time there. Very generous with the power-ups, although I've got nothing useful there. What have we got now? So we've now got some swirly, bubbly things. A few things coming from behind you, they catch you out a few times, but generally speaking, nothing's particularly challenging. There we go, got the power up there for the shots. Oh dear, oh, got away with that then. Okay, so yeah, I'm nearly fully powered up again, and I'm nearly at 100,000 points. I think you get an extra life every 10,000 points. Yeah, I've just got an extra life, so I'm up to 4 lives now, so I've got a bit of breathing room now. Again, with none of the enemies really shooting at you, it's not really particularly challenging. I feel like they should have definitely given a more complex way of getting power-ups, like maybe shooting an enemy for power-ups or something like that. As it is, it's pretty easy just to get all the power-ups and just sort of saunter through most of it. There'll probably be a bit that I get come unstuck on now saying all that. Oh, I've missed that power-up there, I didn't pick it up. But so we'll keep on until we get to the end of this level or we run out of lives, whichever comes first. So there's a bit of scenery to dodge here, and also some... yeah, I thought that might shoot me. These are quite hard to shoot, these rockets that come down the middle, so it's more of a dodge than a shoot. So the odds are stacked up against you a little bit more on this second level. There's also a bit there where you can only get through the bottom, so you'd be in trouble if you were at the top there, I think. Oh, crashed into the scenery instead of collecting the power up then. Oh, that's not really fair either, stuff coming out the ceiling. Oh, there you go, that's game over. Well, that didn't go very well. That was a bit of a disaster towards the end there. I got a bit overconfident, I think. So we've got a high score table. So I'll just put my name in there. And that's pretty much it really, but I think I will just try and get through to the second end of level boss and see if I can get any further. I'm not expecting you to sit and watch me play through all the way to the first and most of the second level again though. Okay, so here I'm roughly the same point I was last time on the second stage. Let's see if we can make it through this time. I've negotiated those green missiles a little bit easier than last time. It seems to be easier going along the bottom section rather than the top. I've now got to get past another wave of these missiles here, which are very hard to shoot with low power, and I've lost a few lives as we've gone along, so I'm not doing too great, but I do seem to be getting a little bit further than previously. It's taken me a few attempts to get this far, by the way. I've already had a couple of games and not done very well. So let's see what lies ahead. What have we got now? Okay, so these things are very, very reminiscent of Salamander. Those things pop out the wall in that game just as they do in this one. Luckily in this one they're fairly easy to fend off, it seems. Okay, so what have we got next? More of them. Oh, a few odd things to fire at you, I've noticed on this stage, but only randomly, so you're not really anticipating the shots, they just suddenly fly at you, annoyingly. Obviously I've got to make my way through these caves as well, so there's a bit more of avoiding the scenery than the first stage as well. So what have we got now? More missiles, which doesn't bode well based on my previous experience, although I seem to have picked a way through them this time so far. Oh, and there we go, here's the end of level boss. So I've reached this once before. It does fire shots at you. There we go, you saw a couple there. So you've got to be wary of that. Again, it seems to be random whether... Oh, there you go, one of them got me there. So I've only got the one life left. Let's see if I can... Nope, there we go, it's game over. As soon as I said that, it's game over. But there you go, you saw the second end of level boss. And as you can see, again, not very spectacular. It's just a small sprite with... a number of other sprites going around it, and you've got to try and shoot it, which I failed to do, but there you go, that was the end of the second level. Never got to the third level, so I can't tell you what that's like. So that's enough of playing the game. Let's get on with the ratings. So starting with the packaging, I thought was pretty bland. The instructions were fairly detailed, but the front cover image was not very interesting. Didn't really indicate that it was a shoot 'em up at all. In fact, could have just been some kind of scuba exploration game from the front cover. So I'm going to go with 6 out of 10 for the packaging. Similarly, the presentation is a little bit bland. This title screen, it's got some nice sort of metallic sheen on the text, but otherwise there's not a lot going on there. No music on the title screen. The loading screen was okay, but again I'm going to go with 6 out of 10 for the presentation. Graphics on the other hand are quite impressive. Very reminiscent, as I mentioned, of games like R-Type, Salamander and also Darius with the undersea kind of theme, but they were generally quite decent, so I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for the graphics. Sound on the other hand was a bit bland as well, quite boring sound effects, and the in-game music was very repetitive, not much of a tune going there, and also, as I've mentioned, no music on the title screen. So I'm going to go with 5 out of 10 for the sound. And finally, playability, well, it's playable for sure, technically quite an impressive game. There's certainly nothing wrong with the playability, but it's also quite dull. There's long drawn out sequences of the same kind of enemies coming at you, and not a lot of variety in the enemies either. Nothing that shoots at you very much apart from the odd shots here and there, and the end of level bosses, which, as I've also already mentioned, are also quite boring. So I'm going to go with 6 out of 10 for the playability. So that gives it an overall score of 6.8. I think maybe as a 2-player game, because it does allow you to play 2 players simultaneously, it might be worth a little bit more in terms of points, but I obviously can't play it 2 players at the same time. Having said all that, I do still think it was worth the $1.99 asking price in 1988 for a shoot 'em up of that level of quality, which is pretty decent. It looks good, as I've said, plays pretty well. It's just a little bit dull, but I think it would still have been worth $1.99 back in 1988 for sure. So there you go, that's my review of Scorpius. If you've got any thoughts about Scorpius, one way or the other, then let me know in the comments. that wraps up another review then, and as is now customary, you should be used to this by now, it's time for you to vote for which game I play in a future video. 2 different games to choose from as always, and the theme this time is Silver Range sequels. So this is 2 games that are sequels to games released in the Silver Range packaging, which I've already reviewed. And your choices are Eyeball 2 or Thrust 2. Pretty simple choice there, Eyeball 2 or Thrust 2. You make the decision, let me know in the comments, and I'll play one of those 2 games in the near future, and the other one in the more distant future, no doubt. So that's it for this review. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.